What's up, guys? Thanks for watching. Would appreciate a like, subscribe, comment down below. Would love to see you engage, and thanks for watching. So in light of recent events, number 2 in the new social contract of America that we need to revive is a marketplace of ideas without threat of violence. So particularly in the aftermath of the Catholic school shooting and the Charlie Kirk assassination, there is we need to get this fixed, like immediately, like yesterday. We need to get this fixed. And so the reason why all outbreaks of violence happen, and I'm talking war, I'm talking a fight on the street between two drunk people, I'm talking about, a lot of different things. And I've studied a lot, too much, honestly, about violence and what causes it, war and what causes it, fighting and what causes it. And some of it is spiritual. I think at the root of everything, like I mentioned earlier, is spiritual. It's a demonic impulse, especially when it comes to mass things like war and things like that. There is a violent demonic spirit happening there. But on the surface level, and I think the reason that leads down to the demonic having an opportunity to break out and enforce itself inside of culture, whether it's American culture, what's going on in Gaza or the Ukraine or wherever, the reason why outbreaks of violence happen is through a breakdown of communication. Like Led Zeppelin got this right in the 60s. When people cannot talk to each other, when people feel like they cannot express themselves properly, when people feel unheard, that is the biggest thing. Like, you're not hearing me. You're shouting. I'm shouting into the void, and no one is hearing me. I'm crying for help. I'm raising my hand. I'm doing whatever. And people just don't care, or they feel like they don't care, because feeling is what matters here. And I'm not saying that, feeling should be the dominant way you think about these things. It probably shouldn't. But what happens to humans, this is a human nature thing, not a specific thing in general. So what happens when people feel unheard, particularly a group of people at scale, is they resort to radicalism to be heard. So, for example, there were many instances that ramped up of police brutality, of black men, black women getting assaulted, getting killed by police, leading up to May of 2020 when George Floyd was killed and when George Floyd died. And it wasn't so much, I think, that George Floyd died in a very viral way and that it went crazy on social media and you had a bunch of these other things. You had a bunch of people who had been radicalized by saying, hey, we need to talk about policing in America. We need to talk about this or that or whatever. I'm not saying this is right or wrong. That's just not a comment on this at all. But what they heard was that, hey, you don't care about us. And now this racist, quote, again, this is not my opinion. This is what a lot of people thought. This racist police officer who bent his knee on this guy's neck and guy's shouting he can't breathe and he dies in the middle of the street when being arrested. I'm sorry, I'm going to throw a brick through the window of a muffin shop. I'm going to take a Molotov cocktail to the Chevy Tahoe that's on my street. And so, and this is everything in regards to violence. January 6th was like this. School shootings are like this. The assassination of Charlie Kirk is like this. I do not feel heard, and you are not listening to me, so I'm going to resort to a radical thing to say, hey, do you hear me now? Are you listening to me now? There is a reason why the shooter who shot Charlie Kirk wrote, catch this fascist on the bullet or the shell of the bullet that killed Charlie. You are not hearing me. You are oppressing me. So therefore, right or wrong, that is what he thought. So therefore, I'm going to write it on a bullet and I'm going to put it through Charlie's neck. That's what he thought. And again, I'm not saying this is right or wrong. All violence is wrong. All violence is wrong, unless it is in self-defense. All violence is wrong, period. I don't care what side of the political aisle you're on. I don't care what religion you are. Violence is wrong. It's wrong. And we have lost that clearly in our culture now. But on the same side of this, speech is not violence. Charlie said comments about transgenderism and gender and women and men and all those type of things. So just because the shooter that killed Charlie, that assassinated him, that martyred him on live TV and social media, was offended by things that Charlie said, that does not mean that it is acceptable to catch this fascist on a bullet and put it through Charlie's neck. It's not okay that even though you might be very angry about a viral video of a black man getting killed by police, that it is okay to take a Molotov cocktail and throw it into a Chevy Tahoe. It is not okay that you believe that the government or the left stole the election and you can run into the Capitol building, even though I think a lot of that was a psyop. I covered that a couple weeks ago. But you can assault a police officer, that you can do whatever, you can protest, whatever. But it does not mean that you can be violent over that. Too bad, so sad, grow up. Whatever the case might be, violence is not okay. And we've lost that in our country, which is why this stupid attorney general that we have. I sound like my dad. My dad says that when he's watching the Browns. Geez, I'm turning into my father. But anyway, it is what makes that clip that everyone is now seeing of Pam Bondi, our dumb attorney general, who should have been fired 6 months ago after the Epstein thing. So Pam Bondi goes on Katie Miller's podcast. So she's Stephen Miller's wife. I have no idea what Katie Miller does, actually, but she has a podcast, apparently. She's had J.D. Vance on. She's interviewing people in the administration. She's had, and she just had Pam Bondi on, I believe, right after Charlie got shot. And so Pam Bondi is the top law enforcement individual in the United States of America. She is the attorney general. There is no one that is above her. She oversees the FBI. She oversees all federal law enforcement, all the justice system. It is all under her. So when the top law enforcement official in the United States of America, the one who is the chief in the federal government, who is, Jesse Kelly put it this way, the attorney general was Donald Trump's most important pick by far, and I couldn't agree more with that, which is why Matt Gaetz getting pulled was such an abomination, because we have Pam Bondi now, who is so weak and so incompetent and so stupid and so spineless. And I don't even mean to be mean to Pam Bondi, but it's like, when is this going to stop? When is this going to stop? So I'm not even getting to my point. I'm getting angry now. So she goes on Katie Miller's show, and she talks about how they need to clamp down on quote unquote hate speech in the aftermath of Charlie Kirk's assassination. And me and the rest of the people who were basically on the left-wing tyranny side of this for a while were like, huh? What? Hate speech? What? There's no such thing as hate speech. There's no such thing as hate speech. And by the way, the thing that made this, I think, not only just plain wrong and unconstitutional and immoral, but also insulting, was that her justification for this was that all of the people that were gloating and putting on social media in the aftermath of Charlie's assassination about, oh my God, I'm so glad that, Charlie got shot. I'm glad that Charlie Kirk was murdered, whatever. And her justification was that those people do not have the right to voice that opinion, that they're glad that Charlie Kirk was murdered. And I have a sense, and I don't obviously know this, but I have a sense that when Charlie Kirk saw that from heaven, he would have hated that. He was like, oh no, I don't want that. I don't want people to not be able to talk and voice their opinions on social media because you think that their speech is not acceptable. Because that's what any sensible person does. It is the opposite, by the way, of what Charlie Kirk stood for. Hate speech does not exist because words, at the end of the day, are just words. They do not have any violent associations with them at all. Words are words. Words are not violence. Feelings are not violence. How someone acts towards you, unless it is in a violent way, it is not violence. And so, feeding this back into the initial point, if people feel that they cannot express themselves because of idiots like Pam Bondi, the top law enforcement official in the United States federal government, saying that, hey, some people cannot express themselves because I don't like what they have to say about Charlie Kirk getting shot, we will get violence. We will get more violence than we have. Because when people feel like they are being unheard, they will rise up and they will target institutions of who they believe they feel are, quote unquote, oppressing them. Which is why, again, we get BLM, we get January 6th, we get Charlie Kirk getting shot, we get these children getting blown away in schools. The root cause of all of them is the exact same thing. People feel like they're being ignored, so they take matters into their own hands and say, I'm going to make you hear me. With a bullet, with a Molotov cocktail, with a rock, with a brick, with whatever, with a fist, with a gun, with a knife. And especially when you have massive movements of aggrieved people that feel like they cannot be heard. It's not good. Again, this is what leads to massive outbreaks of violence, mob culture, mob rule. And so, but, I want to throw in another but here. We cannot let speech go without consequence. So this is why the whole thing about the whole Jimmy Kimmel thing was so stupid, because people were saying, oh, it's cancel culture. No, it's not. Just because, so like for example, I was taught, this is not applied by the way, but I was told by my parents who probably didn't know any better, and I know they didn't know any better because they wouldn't tell me something that's untrue, but my parents told me, and what a lot of parents told their entire generation, was that you better clean up your social media. Company's going to see that. Hey, you better watch it. You better watch what you put out there. Don't, take a picture of yourself flipping off the camera. Don't put nude pictures out there. Don't do this, that, or whatever. And you shouldn't do that. You should not do that. But if you do that, if you say that I am, like there was a viral video of this one woman who was videotaped saying that she was very glad that Charlie Kirk got shot. I'm dancing on his grave, whatever the woman said. And she was expelled by her school from that. And the lefties were all like, oh my God, cancel culture. No. You are responsible for your speech. What you say matters. What you say has consequence. Anything that I put on my social media, anything that I say on this show, can and will be used against you in the court of law. That's what the Miranda rights are for. When you get arrested, and hopefully no one is getting arrested, but when you get arrested and they say anything you say can and will be used against you, that is not just for getting arrested. That is for your life. For example, if you say to your wife, I hate you, and I've always hated you for our entire marriage, and she serves you divorce papers the next day, you cannot say, "Oh my, what do you mean you're divorcing me?" There are consequences for what you have to say, and we must expose bad values. This is why Pam Bondi is so wrong about this, and why Charlie Kirk is appalled by this right now. I guarantee you. So we must expose bad values and harmful ideas by not shutting down speech, by allowing speech to continue, by allowing people to talk. And if people step over the line and commit violence, we must shame it and quash it immediately, no matter where it comes from. I don't care if it's right wing. I don't care if it's left wing. Violence is not acceptable, but all speech is acceptable. Speech is speech. Words are words. Words are not violence. Violence is violence. Period. Point blank. Plain and simple. So that's social contract element number 2. A marketplace of ideas without the threat of violence.